Hello students, today I will going to teach you the critical appreciation of the shadow lines. The shadow lines is undoubtedly a benchmark in Indian writing in English. The book stirs up a number of themes. Time and distance in shadow lines are illusory. Novel move back and forth and the event are not narrated sequentially. The narrator is a man with a great and penetrating insight. He can't only peep in the past and the future but also lives into the life of characters. The novel questions the efficacy of borders. The family of Dutt, Chaudhry, and Price in London defy the border between them, and there is a continuously to and fro movement between the two. They have good relations despite the racial and the cultural differences. Ela gets married to Robbie and the May fall in love with Ribbit. Had the tragedy not stuck, then the two might have tied the nuptial knot. It therefore demonstrates that there is not much difference between the people across the globe. The humanity is same everywhere. It could not be too bold to say that Ghosh has got a little too far to bring the people together. Time and again he has tried to drive home the point that the borders that are drawn are more source of violence than a mark of an actual separation. After the division of India, a carousel of violence was let loose. People living as brothers for centuries together turned on each other killings, ransacking and maiming one another. All the instances of brotherhood and unity of the past were thrown to the wind. The happening on one side affected and controlled the event on the other. The undivided India has long been living in peace and harmony, and though people followed different religions, they stray in the mutual cooperation. It was towards the beginning of 20th century that the seed of dissension was sown by some people in convents and on provocation of the ruling masters, and the matters came to such a pass where the partition was the only choice. Ahmed Jinnah obstinate stand for a different nation for the Muslim population was not only myopic but also hazardous. Even after partition, the people lived peacefully except hazards. Even after partition, the people lived peacefully except those led by the rumors mills of their brothers being attacked and killed in the other parts. The most to suffer were typically plodding countrymen who did not even know who M.A. Jinnah or J.N. Nehru was or what was Indian being partitioned for. The old uncle to the Thama gives entry to the Muslim family, which stays with him and looks after him. Khali, the rickshaw driver, is more concerned for him than his own family, and both the innocents are killed in the riots. The old folks stay where their roots are. They have an unqualified love and a deep sense of belongingness for the place where they have been born. Thama wants to get back to her native place in Dhaka. Her uncle does not want to come to India. Both of them do not believe in the borders, riots, and other things of such nature are very transient in nature and get stuck up in the history and fade away from the public memory before long. The shadow lines makes it amply clear. The resurgent nature of the people's separatist tendency is certainly taking the world by storm, where on one hand the world has become a miniature globe due to the rapid progress of the information technology and means of transport. The other difference has cropped up that are obstacle of linking people and promotion of the world peace or the idea of one government. Be it in India or Sri Lanka or Africa or Ireland, there is a constant effort to establish a separate identity by centurists. Nationalism has been under a constant attack for these developments. The shadow lines questions the sanity and the efficacy of the borders that divide. These lines that are drawn on the maps on the lands are powerless. These lines may put the people in different groups, but they can't divide an experience or memory as the experienced by Thama, her 90-year-old uncle, Robbie, or by the narrator, but they are certainly capable in one thing, that is, recurring hawk, spree of violence, rape, murder, or loot. In most of these causes, the commoners neither have a say nor a will for such division. It is a handiwork of a few hungry of either powered or ruled by fanatic dispositions. Ghosh has also been able to comment on the riots, which are the result of people insensitivity to the religion and the religion of others. A few amongst them, by the fiery speeches or actions, play on the most sensitive relay of human beings' emotions and put them against each other. While the gullible bathe in the blood and the mutilations of the limbs, they reveal over a drink in the air conditioner rooms. If people think that they can divide the people by dividing the territory, then they are sadly mistaken. The lines are only a mirage. Nobody can either divide a memory or experience. The happening in Kashmir on the eve of disappearance of their hair relic clearly demonstrated the same and benevolent nature of the man. The village on the Indian border are more close to each other than the relatives on the other side. They still cross over without fear and get their daughter and sons married in the family across the border. These lines cannot set people free. Had it been so, Tribet death wouldn't have set Robbie free. However, despite the weakness of the borders, they also have their strength with the shadow lines blithely ignores, and no matter how much we may dislike them, they would continue to exist and have their weightage. These lines, which mark the borders and distinguish one piece of land for the others, are certainly not warranted, but even if these lines were not drawn, the difference would persist. The culture, the origin, the custom, and the influence of the area would become the natural boundaries. We may do away with the lines that we stretch with the pencils on the map and by a broad bias or trenches on the lands. The whole humanity is hard to put but under one umbrella. This is what suggests at the present to say that earth is but on one country and mankind in citizens will be rhetorical. A line has got to be drawn somewhere. To talk in practical terms, even a large family gets cracked up and division take place, like in the case of Thamar joint family, where the walls were erected to mark the separation. Then what can be said about the nation housing millions of people sometimes divided the lines of the caste, origin, customs, etc., and about the world housing the nations. God fence make good neighbors. Fences are the touchstone of the sanity. To take in practical terms, distance separates, but it also goes without saying that it makes the herd go fonder. One has to respect the other in order to keep the good relationship and the good neighbors lines, and this comes only if each maintains certain distances. The narrator gives an incident of Jammu and Kashmir where the Muikbar believe to have been the heir of Prophet Muhammad himself was lost. In Kashmir, the riots did not break out. The situation, though, was very tense and volatile, did not have any effect on on the health of the people. People expressed their anger and the violence erupted, but it has a difference. It was not directed against other religion communities, but against all the priorities identified with the government and the police. It happened this way because situation was not exploited by the so-called self-appointed guardians of the humanity and religious communities. The sanitary prevailed. The emotions of the people were not played with. The credit also goes to Maulana Mosid and the authentic leader forgotten and unsung today was persuaded the first demonstrate to march with the black flag instead of green and thereby drew various communities of Kashmir together in a collective display of mourning. Similarly, when it was discovered and restored to its place, there was a lot of rejoicing. People came out on the street, danced together, and distributed the sweets. Though Pakistan was provoking the local populace, people were chanting Central Intelligence Jindabad, while on the other side, a procession protesting against the displacement of the relic turned violent and many people were killed and injured. Then it depends upon how you take up a situation. What surprised the narrator was, even after so many killings, lootings, and arsons, riots are transist in public and government memory. The newspaper talk about the test match at Madras, which happened during the same time, and about the Congress and other political news. The riots were never discussed. When they are happening, the newspaper gave the details, and the details after details of accurate description. But once they were over, there was nothing to left to describe, and they were never spoke of it again. The schedule line has this escapist tendency. Here, the narrator states, but for those other things, we can only use word of description when they happen, and then they fall silent. For to look for words of any other kind would be given them meaning, and that is risk we cannot take any more than we afford to listen to madness. Such an approach can be best be described as wishing away the realities, but the hard fact is that realities do not go away simply because you choose your eyes to it. The reals that are not discussed or causative factors sorted out would not bring one to reality and equip one to face the menace and stop its recurrence. It shows the lack of courage to take up situation. The state is not free from the blame because it does nothing to restrict them or discourage them. Very often, the existence of the government depends upon the speaking of taking a stand against them means losing the popular votes, for they do not command those particular sections whose worth may turn the tide against them. The shadow lines is a continuous struggle of the author to undo the demarcation, to prevent the establishment of the borders, and to reinforce his ideology. He has even gone to the extent that nationalism is a defiant force. Nationalism has been under attack in the novel, which is perceived as a hurdle in the unification of the mankind. Thama initially is projected as a great enthusiast of the concept of nation and nationalism. The the one who would not mind holding a pistol and killing for the freedom. She believed in the strength and opinions that without building a good body first, one can't build a strong nation, and similar other views. Her nationalism is broad enough to include the two nations, and the line drawn as border between her native place in Dhaka and her present state at Calcutta disturb her. She still grows nostalgic about her home in Dhaka. After the border between the two countries was demarcated, she believes that it separates. She believes that there could be a trenches or soldiers pointing guns at each other, that the two could be distinct identities, but to her dismay, she finds otherwise, and that is the reason she laments. Why all this killing, so much of bloodshed? If there was nothing to demarcate, it would be the same when she used to take a train from Dhaka and reach Calcutta. After cruel killing of Tribid and the old man on the street of Dhaka, her nationalism shrinks. It comes to denote India now. She tells her grandson that they must treat them now, and guns and bullets, and gifts away her only necklace to the war refund. She grows fanatical to the extent of donating a few drops of blood that drip when she bangs her fist on the radio. But the $1 million questions is which is best explained by Robbie outside in London, is how many lines can be drawn? Everywhere they are doing it to be free. In Assam, the northeast, Punjab, Sri Lanka, Tripura, people are shot by terrorists and separatists and the army and the police. You find people somewhere behind it. All the single word everyone is doing. Everyone is doing it to be free, says he. He also remembers an incident when he could tell his policemen to be firm and kill whose village if necessary to track down the terrorist, for they should be willing to pay a price of the unity and freedom. And on his return, he would find a note saying, "We are going to get you, nothing personal. We have to kill you for our freedom." Robbie sums this up by saying, why don't they draw thousands of little lines through the whole subcontinent and give every free place a new name? What it changes, it is a mirage. The whole of this is a mirage. Even after hundreds of lines are drawn, peace will not prevail. It is only lead to the greater distrust and our sore relations. No one can divide the memory. People in the friendly terms, they then why to do all this? And this is also happens to the message to the shadow lines. Nationalism has been painted black in the shadow line. It is held responsible through appeal for division and separation. Thama has been ridiculed as fossilized specimen of the nationalism. However, to hold nationalism only responsible for such results, in my opinion, wouldn't be unfair. And to affirm the death of the nationalism would be making a profound and authenticative statement.